Welcome to the introduction of Sugar CRM plugin for Microsoft Outlook for version 6.0 of Sugar. We are going to record this session, so you will have access to it after the webinar is complete. About an hour afterwards, you will have a GoTo meeting email sent to you, and it will have a copy of the presentation slides that we'll be going through, and it will have a link to the presentation recording, so you'll be able to listen to it again if you need to. It also will be posted on Sugar University, so if you have other folks that want to reference it in your organization, they are more than welcome to go out there and do that. That will probably be later on this week that the posting will happen. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So in this session, we're going to talk about, I'm going to have a little bit of an introduction about Sugar Outlook plugin, some of the things that it does for, that you can do with Sugar and Outlook together. And then also we'll go in and do a demonstration and show you how each one of the features works. So basically, the plugin is going to provide the ability for you to synchronize email, contacts, appointments, and tasks between Outlook and Sugar. Now, the email specifically will allow you to archive email that you may have received, say, from a client, and it's in your email box, and you want to have that email also within Sugar so that other folks in your organization can reference that material. Also, you can view Sugar records from within Outlook. So if I want to reference it in, I want to reference a particular archive, a particular email within Outlook, I need to know which records are out there in order to archive that record too. Also, I can create a Sugar account, bug, case, contact, lead, and opportunity based off of an email that I receive also, if one does not already exist within the system. So if you go out and try to archive and it cannot find a record to match it to, then you can go and create a account, bug, case, contact, lead, and opportunity within Outlook. Okay. So to start off, the very first thing that we need to talk about is within version 6.0, you can access your Sugar plugin for Microsoft Office within your user preferences. So your user preferences are now up in the system links like they were before, but now they are on your username. So you simply click on your name within the system link, and your user preferences will show up. And there'll be several tabs there. Make sure you go to the Download tab, and then you'll have this view where you'll have Sugar plugin for Outlook, Word, and Excel, and then for the different versions. So make sure that if you're using Outlook 2003 that that's the one that you download. There's also a hyperlink, as you can see here at the top of the screen, for the documentation. So if you need more information than what we cover here within this webinar, you are more than welcome to go to the plugin documentation link within 6.0, or you can go to the documentation within Sugar CRM for the plugins to get more information also. So if you cannot see that tab, I have a question about, you can't see that, I can't see the tab under my name, so you need to click on your name and it brings up your user preference page. And if you don't see a download tab, click cancel on that page, and there should be a download tab to the far right. Okay? I think beside access. Okay. So once you find the link that you need, then you're going to go to installing. We're going to talk about installing and configuring your plugin. So you're just going to run that extension for Outlook plugin, and then it's going to kick off a wizard, a setup wizard for the plugin. So it takes a few minutes for it to run, and then when you open up, when it's complete, you will be able to see within Outlook a new toolbar that's on the very first page, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then also you can access the underneath Microsoft Outlook tools, so underneath the tool bar, a Sugar options. So the very first thing that you want to do within your connections, and this is per user is going to have to do these particular steps, or for per user, you want to enter the username, the password for Sugar, and the URL to your instance of Sugar that you'll be using. So this is a window that is within Outlook that you're putting your Sugar logon information so it can make that connection between Outlook and Sugar. Then you want to click on Test Connection, and your test connection will either pass or it will fail. So if it fails, that simply means that your username, password, or your URL is incorrect. So make sure that you verify the information and then test it again. Okay. Also, a couple other things that you can do after that connection is complete on this Sugar Options page is you can decide whether you want your archive email attachments to also always be sent to Sugar, or if you want to be prompted, or if you never want those email attachments sent to Sugar. So you can make that decision if a client sends you an attachment, if you automatically want that to be archived when you archive your email. And then you have some other preferences that are located down here at the bottom. One of them that I want to point out is the automatically sync every, and then you can put a certain interval of minutes on this particular tab. This will enable you to automatically sync information between Outlook and Sugar for your task, your appointments, and your contacts. And it will do it on the interval that you have assigned here in this minute box. Now, one caution that I may give you is that when a sync happens, if you say you're working in Outlook, it will stop what you're doing in Outlook in order to do that sync, and then it will also do that within Sugar. So once the sync is done, then it will, unfreeze the screen, and then you continue doing actions. Some users and clients don't like that. They'd rather do a manual sync, which I'm going to show you how to do, and they usually do it at the very end of their day. So they'll be working in Outlook or in Sugar, and at the end of the day, that's when they can sync up their information. Now, emails are on a per email basis. Not all the emails that you receive in Outlook are things that you want to archive into Sugar. You may be getting personal emails. You may be getting emails that are internal from maybe HR or your accounts payable department that you don't want to necessarily archive into Sugar, just those emails that you have interactions with your customers. So per email that you receive or per email that you send can be archived to Sugar, and I'll show you how to go through that process in just a minute. A couple of the things that you can do on your Sugar Options page is you also can deal with conflict handling, and that's actually on the Contacts, Opportunities, and Tasks page, and we will go through that conflict handling a little later after we've discussed a few things about Outlook plugin and how to do some syncing and archiving. Right? So once you have installed and configured your Outlook plugin, we're going to talk first about synchronizing your email from Microsoft Outlook. So when you first log on to Outlook, you're going to have a toolbar across the top of your page, and it will have 3 buttons on it: Archive to Sugar, New Sugar Record, and Sync to Sugar. The Archive to Sugar is for you receive an email from a customer, you open up that email, you decide that is an email that I want to archive to my Sugar instance. I'm going to click that email is already highlighted. I'm going to click on the button to archive to Sugar, and this box will pop up called Archiving Email, and then you can, based on the email address, so instead of just saying John here would have an email address, I can click on search, and it will go out and find any contacts, accounts, opportunities, or leads, or any of the other records that I might have checked up here at the top to search by, so that you can select which one of these types of records you want to archive this email to, which the archive email is going to go in the history panel on that particular record's detail page. Okay? You also have the option, you can kind of see it, and I'll show you this in our demonstration, to edit that email before you archive it. And one advantage to that is, let's say in the email, you at the bottom, you may have asked how their vacation was, how are their kids, you know, how's your wife, those types of things. And you don't want necessarily that to be archived to Sugar. So you can edit out the information that you don't want to archive, and then you can simply click on the archive button at the bottom. An option that you have is if you clicked on search and no records showed up within Sugar, so it didn't make any connection based on that email of any records. You can also go in and create a new Sugar record by either clicking on the Create button here on this window or going up and clicking on the toolbar New Sugar Record. So based on the information in that email, meaning the person's name and their email address, you can create either an account, a bug, a case, a contact, a lead, or an opportunity. So say, for example, you get an email from an individual and they're interested in one of your products and you don't have a relationship with them already, you can create a lead record and then archive that email that you just received to them to that lead record. Okay. You also can, from the original homepage within Outlook, you can sync your other records anytime during the day. So when I was talking about most users will do this at the end of their day, they can sync either just their contacts or their appointments or their tasks or all three of those types of records from Outlook to Sugar and Sugar to Outlook. Okay. All right, so those were emails that I might have received. I also have a toolbar now on my toolbar within composing a new email. I have a new box that's called Sugar CRM, and I have a one-step archiving button that will send and archive the email at the same time. And I also can, if I don't know or I can't remember the email address for the particular contact or lead that I'm trying to get a hold of, I can look up that Sugar address by clicking on Look Up Sugar Address. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go into Outlook. Here is my Outlook. So on my home page here, let me make this a little bigger. You can see that I have, let me put my arrow on here so you can see this. I have a new toolbar up here at the very top of my page. So I have Archive to Sugar, New Sugar Record, and Sync to Sugar. And on the New Sugar Record, I have the different options that we talked about, different accounts, and then also Sync to Sugar. I have the different options to sync my contacts, opportunities, task, or all of those. Okay. So first thing I want to show you is I'm going to go up to the toolbar, and I'm going to click on Tools. And notice that I'll usually go into regular options for Outlook, so there are your regular options. But just below that now you have Sugar options. Okay. And this opens up the window that I was showing you earlier. So I have my username and password, and then I can click on Test Connection, and it can make that, says log on successful, so the test was successful. If it fails, then make sure that this information is correct. I have decided I want to be prompted if I have an attachment, if I want that to be archived. I'm not going to do any automatic sync or any of the other preferences that are here. And we'll go into the other tabs a little later for contacts, appointments, and tasks. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I'm going to show you how to archive an email. So here's an email that is from GoToMeeting, but I'm going to show you how you can archive an email to your instance. So I've just selected the email. I haven't actually opened it. I just selected it. And I'm going to go up to my toolbar to Archive to Sugar. And here is my window. So there are two actual email addresses that it will search by. So it will search by any of the email addresses listed. I'm going to click on Search. And I've limited my search to simply accounts, contacts, and opportunities. I could increase that to a lead if I needed to. And then I can click search again, and if it found any records, it could do that. So it found a contact record for Andrea. And I also have a Sugar CRM account and an opportunity for 2,000 units. Okay, so I can decide which one of these which one of these records I want this email to archive to. Another thing I can do before I archive is I can go up to the tab to edit the email, and I can take out any of the information that I may not need. So if I want to remove anything, I can simply go in and delete that information out. Okay? I'm going to go back to my search tab here. And I'm going to select the opportunity. I want this email to archive to the opportunity. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom and click Archive. Okay. So two things have happened. In Outlook, it has put an indicator or a category on this particular email to flag it to let me know that it has been archived to Sugar. So it's indicated that category for Sugar CRM to let me know that it's been posted to Sugar. And then also, if I go into my instance of Sugar and I go to Accounts, and I've already searched for Sugar, so there is my Sugar account. I'm going to scroll down to that opportunity for the 2,000 units. And then underneath History, here is the archived email that I just archived. And this is what that email looks like. Okay? So it's just in text form. All right. So you now can see how that looks. Okay, so that's how I can archive an email that I may have received. Okay, so I have a question about, can I see the history of that email archived if you're on the account for that opportunity? Meaning that if I go back to the account, will it also be on my account detail page, I think is what you're asking also. So I can archive it to both places, but it's going to go to the account to the record that I indicated. So it archived it to the opportunity record. Even though they're linked together, the archive is actually being put on the opportunity page, not on the account page. So you can see that it's not here on the account history page. Okay, but I can archive it to multiple records if I need to. So that's a good question. No problem. So I have another question that they've already installed the Outlook plugin and they don't see that lookup sugar address button. Lookup sugar address button. Oh, on your when you compose a new email. Let me make sure we're talking about the same place. And we're going to discuss this right now anyway. So if I go to create a new email, which of course it opened it on my other page here, so let's move it over. Notice that I now have a new box on my toolbar for Sugar CRM. So I have the send and archive and the lookup sugar address. So when you compose, this goes back to the question, if you compose a new email, this is where the lookup sugar address is going to be located. Okay? If it doesn't happen, if you don't see that, John, you may need to put a support ticket in and see if that fixes it. If not, maybe your connection hasn't been successfully connected, so you may want to test that connection again and then see if it's there. If it's not, then I put a support ticket in because it should be there. Okay, So if I want to create an email and send it, I can do that, or I can, let's say I want to look up a sugar address, and I'm going to look up my address. So it's going to go out and check sugar for the email address, and when it finds it, then it will add that to the list and I can select it. Okay. So because it's checking the whole database, instead of just my items or my records that are mine, it may take a little while. So I'm going to click cancel, but that's how that process works. So if I were to, I'm going to say to Andrea, this is a test example of email sent to customer. Okay, and instead of clicking the send button over here, I'm going to click send and archive here. Same box pops up, and I'm going to do the same search, and this time I'm going to archive it to the account and click archive. So it's asking me about attachments, and it's prompting me like I asked it to. I didn't add an attachment, so it doesn't really matter if it's going to go, if I want to send it or not. So it's archiving it. I go back to my sugar instance and back up to my page, which I need to refresh. There is my example of an email sent to the customer archive that I sent. Now, I didn't put any text in that email, so it's going to be blank, except for my signature, but you can see how that works also, okay? All right. So that is archiving emails that you receive and archiving emails that, excuse me, emails that you send. Okay. We also talked about looking up an email address and then where the synchronize buttons are located on the home page. So the next thing we're going to talk about is synchronizing our contacts. And when you first get into Sugar, sometimes some customers, most of the sales reps' contacts are in Outlook or in their email. And so the best way to populate Sugar is to get those contacts over into Sugar by syncing them up. So there's a new toolbar that is on the top of the contacts window to sync up your contacts, and only the ones that you want. So you have the option to sync to Sugar, to select certain contacts to mark, and you can even unmark some contacts that you have already synced or that you thought you wanted to sync and you decided that that's not one that you want to sync up. Any of your contacts that are marked as private, so say you have your doctor or your vet in your contact listing and you mark them as private, which means you right-click on it and select as private, then those contacts will not sync to Sugar if they have that private flag on that contact. Okay? So it seems like I have another question, another person that is having issues with on the Compose email with the not seeing the lookup. So I tell you what I will do is I will check into that and get back to the two of you. Okay? So hopefully we can get that resolved, okay? So I have another question about if we have a plugin for Evolution, which is a Linux email client. We do not, but there may be one out on SugarForge or Sugar Exchange that you can download and use as a plugin into Sugar. Okay, good question. And let me see if I got another question here. Okay. Okay, so I'll send that to everyone on the call, okay, if I get a solution to that issue. So when you compose a new contact or create a new contact, just like with the compose email, you can have two new options on your toolbar to save that contact and mark it as mark to sync for Sugar, and then also for the company name, so it will sync to or look up the correct company. You can set that to a Sugar account. Okay, so let me come back to the screen about conflict handling in just a minute. So if I go to Outlook, I'm going to go to my Contacts tab, and I'm going to create New. And on this new contact, I'm going to put Andrea Johnson. And if I want to look up the company name, I can click on the Set Company Name to Account and click on Sugar CRM. Search for, I don't want it, not mine, search for that particular account, found it, and then I can select that as the account. Then I can enter the rest of the information for that particular record. Okay? Once instead of clicking Save and Close, I want to click on Save and Mark to Sync. So it's indicated it as it's marked. And then I'm going to close that window. And then I'm going to go up here to the far left-hand side and click Sync to Sugar. Okay. And then within Sugar, I'll have the Andrea Johnson record available. Okay. All right. So that's how you can, if I already have an existing record, so say this is, I'm going to select Amy just by simply clicking on it. Then I'm going to click Mark to Sync. So if I opened up Amy, you can see that it has the green line for Sugar CRM. And I'm going to click Sync to Sugar. And it's going to move Amy over to my instance of Sugar. Okay. Now, one thing I want to talk about, we're going to go back up to Tools and to my Sugar options. Okay. And I'm going to go to the Contacts tab. I have three options within the conflict handling section on contacts. And this is something I want to talk about. So if you have a contact on your page and that record, you have a conflict in Outlook and that same contact is in Sugar, but the information is different in Outlook and Sugar. So the plugin or the sync is going to obviously come up with some kind of conflict, and you have the choice to make whether you want to allow Sugar to always prevail, you want Outlook to always prevail, or you want to be prompted every time, allow yourself to specify which one is correct. Okay, because conflicts are going to happen. Other users within Sugar or you yourself are going to update information in one of the other, Outlook or Sugar, and then next time it syncs up, because that record, the contact record, is still marked to sync, it's going to verify that that information is still correct. If there is a conflict, you need to choose here how you want that to be set up. But if you click on Allow User to Specify, then you'll be prompted to make a decision about which one is the correct version of that contact record. Okay? The same can be done for appointments and for task. Okay. All right. Whoops, hold on, I got a question here. The way that you can, I have a question about, is there a way to search in Outlook to see who has been synced? The way that indicator has been set up is that if you go into a record, you can see the records real quickly at the top that have the Sugar CRM at the very top of them. So you can see with those particular categories. You can also see, say, by category. So if I want to see all of the records that have been synced to Sugar, then that particular category, you can see all the records, contact records that I have that have been synced up by simply going over to the current view and sorting it by category. It's the way to do it within Outlook. Hopefully that answers your question, Kelly. Can different users edit the same contact? That's another question we have, and that's a good question. That all depends on your user preferences within, your user security that's set up by your administrator within Sugar. So records are attached to teams, and if you are part of a team on that particular record, a team could be one or more people, then all of the individuals on that team can potentially edit that record. Now, there are also things called roles, and an administrator can set up a role that only the owner of the record can edit that particular contact. It all is determined on how the admin sets up that record. But it can be done that only the owner can edit the record based on a particular role that can be set up. Okay? So hopefully that answers that question. Okay, let's go back to the presentation here. So we talked about conflict handling. One other thing about contacts I want to point out, and this is about deleting contacts. So the Sugar version of contact records supersedes the Outlook version. And what I mean by that is if you delete a record, a contact record in Outlook, after you've already synced the record, the contact is going to remain in Sugar, okay? But if you delete that contact in Sugar and then you sync up the records again, or sync up all the records, then the contact is also going to be deleted in Outlook. Now, a way to avoid that is to unsync your contacts after you have synced them up. So you mark to sync, click on sync, they shoot on over to Sugar, and then once that happens, then unmark it. Okay? What if contact lists are shared? Oh, you mean within Outlook they're shared? Are you asking about, Kelly, are you asking about if, say your example is that I enter contacts for the CEO and have access to his contacts in Outlook. So if you change one of his contacts, say email address or phone number, it will obviously change for his contact too because it's a shared. Then if you wanted to sync that up to Sugar, it would be that record that you're both sharing. So if it changes in Sugar, it's also going to change within your Outlook and your CEO's Outlook. Okay? I think that answers your question. Okay, good. So I have another question about, do you know if Sugar 6 Community version has Outlook plugin? I'm pretty sure that it does, but if it doesn't, I will get back to you and find out about that, okay? Michael? All right. So now we talked about deleting contacts. And we've already gone in and done a synchronization of our contacts already. Okay, next is calendar and task. So synchronizing your calendar meetings and calls that you may be doing and the task. So similar toolbar on the calendar page and the task toolbar. We have the sync to sugar, mark to sync, and unmarked to sync. Just like within contacts, if they're marked as private, so these calendar meetings or your task, if it has a private flag, then they won't be synchronized to sugar. Okay? And you only have one option when you create a new calendar or a new task, and that on your window that pops up, and that is save and mark to sync. Okay? So let me go in and show you an example of that. So if I go to my calendar, and within this calendar I have, I want to create a meeting. And let's say it's my initial contact with client. And I want it to actually be on Friday at 10. And I'm going to just have Andrea as this is on site. I'm going to save and mark to sugar. And then if I need to send it on, like I'm inviting someone else, then my send button could be here and I can send it to someone else within my organization or with my client. Okay. And then since it's marked to sync because it's in green, I can tell by just looking at it that if I click on sync to sugar, it will sync that meeting up in my sugar calendar, which is where my activities module is located, and also any calendar events that are within sugar will also sync up to my calendar in Outlook. Okay, so it's going to go both directions. If I were to do a task, so I want to create a new task. So just like within sugar, I can have a title, a start date, and an end date, or a due date, and also a status, priority, and then where I am within that particular task, any notes about that task, and then I also can save and mark that to sugar, and then save, close, and then sync to sugar. And it will sync up the task that I just created and the task that I have in sugar to Outlook. Okay? Now let me show you one thing within Outlook that I forgot to point out in contacts. I'm going to just pull up any contact here. Let's look at Heidi. Now on Heidi's record, you can see that there is a sync to Outlook. Okay? So if that sync to Outlook is checked for this particular contact, it will also sync the opposite direction, meaning that sugar, when you click sync in Outlook, it will also take this contact record and sync it up to Outlook. Right? If it's not checked, then it won't go the opposite direction, meaning that it won't sync up that record. So if I were to delete this contact at this point, because that box is not checked for sync to Outlook, it won't actually sync that information or won't delete that contact within Outlook. Okay, so that's also another way to avoid contact records being deleted in your Outlook version. Okay. Okay, so within this session, we have talked about synchronizing contacts, appointments, tasks between Outlook and Sugar, and also archiving email items from Sugar from Outlook with Sugar accounts, bugs, cases, contacts, leads, opportunities, and projects. Also viewing our Sugar records from within Outlook, and then also creating Sugar accounts, bugs, cases, contacts, leads, and opportunities from maybe a record that I haven't received yet. Okay, here's a question. Can we sync contacts in bulk from Sugar or Outlook? The only way that it would be bulk from Sugar is if I had all of my contacts and they were marked as sync to Sugar, and when I click sync in Outlook, it would bulk sync them to Outlook. But within Outlook, you have to go into each one and select a contact, click mark to sync for each one, and then when you click on, say you have 7 of them within Outlook and 10 of them you have synced to Outlook within Sugar. When you click the sync button, the 7 in Outlook are going to go to Sugar and the 10 in Sugar are going to go to Outlook. Okay, so that's the only way in bulk that can be done. And it's probably not what you're actually asking, but that's the way that that process works. Okay, so I have if we go back to Outlook and contacts, someone says that we can go in and select multiple. So if I hold multiple down and then click mark to sync. Okay, thank you, John. Excellent. So you can select more than one in your Outlook, and then once you click mark to sync, now that they're all marked, when you sync them, all of those will go over to Sugar. Okay? So let me see if that, okay. Okay, so another question was, can you show the calendar task updates within Sugar? Okay, so within my demo environment, I'm going to go to Activities, and let's look at the week. So this is where my calendar event should show, but because I'm working with a demo environment, that's probably why it didn't carry that information over from my Outlook calendar. And also I'm using not my calendar, but a demo calendar, so that not all my personal calendar events are being pulled over. But this is where that calendar event would be, or any other meeting that was transferred over. You could see them here. Okay, and they'll come over as a meeting. There won't be a distinguishment between a call or a meeting. So all your calendar events will come over into Sugar as meetings. Okay. Okay, any other questions that you'd like to ask? Task will show up in the task section for your, task will show up in the task module with all your other tasks that are going to display there. Okay? Okay, so that's all that we have for today's session on the Sugar CRM plugin for Outlook, Microsoft Outlook. We do have another class that is a little more advanced than this one. This is just an introduction that you can go to Sugar CRM and go to .com and go to the Sugar University page, and it will allow you to have a little bit more in-depth find a little bit more in-depth class on the Microsoft plugin for Outlook on the training locator, and you can find a trainer or a class that may actually be near you if you want a live class, or find another online class to attend that you can find on Sugar University. Okay, so this is just an intro, but you're more than welcome to sign up for one of those other classes also. I have a question about recapping where to download the plugin. Sure, I can do that. So let me scoot back up the slide, so look away for a second. Don't want to give you whiplash. So in Sugar 6, up in your system links, and I'll actually show you where this is in just a second on the page. On your user preferences, which is where you click your name in the system links, it opens up that page. Go to the Download tab, and you'll have this window here for both documentation and to download the particular plugin for your version of Outlook. So if I were to go into, in this instance, it's Jason. Click on Jason's name. And here is the Downloads tab. Now, because this is a demo environment, it doesn't have the actual plugins, but this is where they would be located for Outlook, Word, and Excel. And then the documentation link is here. Okay, so there would be one for Outlook 2003 and Outlook 2007. And that's where you would initiate or start that download for that particular plugin that you need. Okay, so the screen would actually, so you're clicked on your preferences, and then you went to the Downloads tab. Okay, and that page would look like this for you. So you'd have Outlook 2003, 2007. Now, for those of you that may be using 5.5 for Outlook, you need to go to your download manager where you downloaded Sugar to begin with, so that you can go in and put your key in again, your download key, enter that download key, and then you'll have access to all the plugins on that particular page. Okay, so if you don't have this 6.0, if you've got an earlier version, make sure you go to your download page where you've downloaded Sugar, and you'll have all the other options available to you for all your other plugins. Okay? All right, so I've got a couple of outstanding questions I need to follow up with you on. One of them is the Sugar 6 community version, and to verify the Outlook plugin and if there are any enhancements for it. And then second of all, for why the lookup, the address is missing on your particular version. So I will check with that and verify what the issue is. Okay? All right. Thank you so much, guys, for your attendance. It has been a great presentation with y'all. Great questions, and thanks for your participation. And please go out to Sugar University if you want some more in-depth information about the plugin, or if you want to attend any of the other free webinars or any of the other sessions that would have labs with them, so you can actually get some more practice. Okay, thanks so much and have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.